Season 3, episode 49 of the Daily Intermission podcast. My name is Greg. I'm back in studio. And I am back to maybe 70, 75% after a large St. Paddy's Day weekend. What a weekend it is. I mean, I think back to my university days and, being an undergrad, and it's truly, probably the biggest drinking day at undergrad university, and it continues on, into your 20s and, at any age. I was out at the bars in Halifax. Shout out to my boys, Alex and Dylan from Coors Molson in Halifax. We just in a spectacular day in regard to, the products that we had access to and, backdoor at bars. It was really a fun day. But yeah, I mean, it's a very diverse group out in the mix. I mean, you get people ages, anywhere from 20 to, 60 out enjoying and celebrating St. Patrick's Day. So, no, it really was a fun day. I'll get into it. But I did want to mention in the pregame show, ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped. Go over to manscaped.com. Check out the variety of products. The Platinum package is amazing. It comes with the Lawnmower 4.0. It comes with the Weed Whacker nose trimmer. It's unbelievable. The products over at Manscaped, we're very thankful to have them on board for the podcast. So make sure you head over to manscaped.com and check out the variety of products. If you use the code TDI, you get 20% off and free shipping. So it's the best men's grooming products on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. So they keep me tidy, and I want them to keep you tidy. So make sure you're looking your best this spring and summer, and order your Manscaped products at manscaped.com. TDI for 20% off. So yeah, I went into on Friday. I went into to Halifax and enjoyed, like I said, St. Patrick's Day, and started kind of having my first few beers around 1:30 in the afternoon. And being at my age now of 28, I can't do it like I used to. I mean, I think back to university, we'd get up and go at 7, 8 in the morning, and that's just not the case anymore, clearly. But I made it till I think around 10:30, 11 at night. So a good day of socializing. Got to catch up with a lot of old friends from that I haven't seen in a while, and it's just a really fun. It's a really fun day, and a lot of green out in the mix. And yeah, I mean, hopefully you listeners got an opportunity to have a pint, have a Guinness or a Murphy's, and enjoy the St. Patrick's Day celebrations. I did want to mention that I'm doing a TaylorMade giveaway. I'm teaming up with TaylorMade Canada this summer, and we're giving away a Stealth 2 driver. So the instructions to enter the giveaway are pretty simple. Just follow the Daily Intermission on TikTok and follow TaylorMade Canada on TikTok, and you're entered into the draw. So I'll be posting about that giveaway all week this week. So make sure you go follow TaylorMade Canada on TikTok, and you're in the draw. I mean, I'm sure we're going to do more giveaways in the coming months, but I mean, what an opportunity! Just a click of a button, and you are entered in for an opportunity to win the new Stealth 2. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. I did want to mention too, I've got a fun trip booked. I'm heading to the nation's capital. I'm heading to Ottawa for the Masters. I'm going to be visiting Drake Batherson, the Ottawa Senators. I'm really excited about it. So, hopefully, we'll get some good content there. And that's a few weeks away as well. So it's going to be a fun few weeks here for the Daily Intermission. But yeah, it's been just a wild weekend. Like I said, it takes me a little bit longer to recharge after a weekend like that. Like, I'm telling you, the Saturday after that, so it's, you're looking from 1 to 10:30, I got back to my hotel room and didn't sleep very well. Got up the next morning, drove home, but that Saturday, you're probably operating around 40%. And then you get to Sunday and you're maybe back to, 50, 60. You're still not feeling yourself. And then today I'm probably back to around 70, 75%. So I'm still not feeling fully back to normal, but it's, once you get into your, your late 20s, early 30s, it's, you don't handle the hangovers like you used to. And, sometimes you can find that out in the hard way. But listen, folks, we've got a jam-packed episode. The sports world has been humming, and we've got a ton to talk about. In quarter one, we're going to obviously break down the March Madness that's been going on. We'll talk about the NBA. In quarter two, we'll move into the NHL. Quarter three, we've got the World Baseball Classic, which has popped onto my radar. I've actually been watching a couple games. We've got some NFL some NFL briefing to get into, and then in quarter four we'll talk about the PGA Tour, UFC 286, and the Formula 1 race that just happened in Saudi Arabia. But let's hop into quarter one here, folks. March Madness has been absolutely outrageous. It has been fun to watch. There's been some massive upsets, and I wanted to look into it. I wanted the exact number. So pre-tournament, remember when Warren Buffett would offer like $1 billion to someone who picked the perfect bracket? Well, there's a reason why he offered that number. There's 9.2 quintillion number of bracket outcomes. Think about that. 9.2 quintillion. 1 quintillion is a billion billions. Like it's an unconceivable. You can't comprehend the amount of different bracket outcomes that there are for March Madness. So there will just never be a perfect bracket. It's essentially impossible. So if you're having a bad year, if your bracket's not looking fantastic, well, listen, that's just how it goes in March Madness. So, and I remember a couple episodes ago, I recommended the 1 seed, 2 seed parlay. Yeah, hopefully you didn't follow that, because we had 2 of those 8 teams drop in the first round, which we'll get into. So obviously the round of 64 brought some serious upsets. Furman, as I was recording last Thursday, beat Virginia. Virginia looked like they had a stranglehold on that game. Furman ends up coming back and beats Virginia. Princeton, number 2 seed, who still remains in the tournament heading into the Sweet 16, beats Arizona, a 2 seed. So that Arizona was in my parlay. Absolute whiff. Pitt beat Iowa State, I apologize. An 11 seed beating 6. And Farley Dickinson, FDU, the second 16 seed in the history of the tournament, beats Purdue. Can you imagine being a 1 seed? Purdue, who had a great year. They got that big unibrow fella that I forget his name. I think he's Canadian too, 7'4". Anyway, after they showed the footage in the Purdue dressing room after they had lost to the 16 seed Farley Dickinson, there's a massive hole in the chalkboard, in the kind of, whiteboard, the massive portable whiteboard that the coach would have been drawing up plays on, and it's just devastating, especially too for Purdue students, and just fired up that your team's a 1 seed, thinking you have an opportunity to go on a little run here and just get dusted. But we move into the round of 32, and Farley Dickinson beats Missouri. They take care of Missouri. So Farley Dickinson remains in the turn. Actually, I think they might have lost yesterday. Michigan State beats Marquette. So the Sweet 16 is set. And I'm going to bring that up now. But it's crazy how in 4 days we go through 2 rounds of the March Madness. Like, it is just absolutely outrageous, the amount of college basketball we get within those 4 days. But now we're down to the Sweet 16. And Princeton, obviously, they've moved on. They'll play Creighton. We have got the 2-3 seeds in Texas, and Xavier will go at it. Houston will take on the U. Alabama to take on San Diego State. Michigan State will take on Kansas State. Michigan State's actually favored as the 7 seed. Arkansas will play UConn. Florida Atlantic will take on Tennessee, and Gonzaga will take on UCLA. So you know what? As I'm looking at these teams right now, I like Arkansas to upset UConn. I don't know how people are feeling about that. Gonzaga versus UCLA is going to be a great game. I like Alabama to blow the wheels off San Diego State. And are we going to be riding the Princeton train? I think we ride the Princeton train over Creighton. That's amazing. An Ivy League school to be, marching through the March Madness like this is just, it's just awesome to see. So it's been fun to watch. It's just game after game after game. So I've caught a few of the games. I haven't watched a ton. Just because there's been a lot of other sports on that have been compelling. I mean, just our regular programming in the NBA, NHL, PGA Tour, UFC, like there's just been a lot of action outside of the World Baseball Classic, outside of the March Madness. But like I said, I've watched a little bit of it, but the upsets are mayhem. But this is kind of when we get down to crunch time. We'll get the Elite Eight after this weekend, and we'll really start to hone in on who we're looking at to win the March Madness National Championship. But just moving on in the NBA, continuing on in quarter one of episode 49 of season 3. The Philadelphia 76ers, they're making some serious noise, folks. They are on an 8-game heater, and they've now passed the Boston Celtics for second place in the Eastern Conference. And I'm like, man, this team's good, man. This Tyrese Maxey player he's just phenomenal. He's electric to watch. They got James Harden, Tobias Harris. I mean, they've got a strong lineup. And Joel Embiid's averaging 33.5 points this season. There's only been one player actively playing to finish a season averaging more than that, and it's his teammate James Harden. So Embiid has certainly kind of skyrocketed into the MVP talk. Not that he wasn't there, but it sounds like probably he's going to get some, maybe a lot more votes than Jokic gets because of voter fatigue. And Embiid has been vocal in the past, thinking he should have been the MVP. So that process that we've been trusting seems to be coming into fruition, and it might be the year that the 76ers can go on a little run. But the playoffs is a little bit different, and we'll see what happens. But it's been exciting for Philadelphia fans watching the 76ers go on this heater and climb the standings and really shaping up in a nice position moving into the playoffs. If you guys have been following the NBA news, the Grizzlies and Golden State Warriors, they're kind of developing into a nice little rivalry. And maybe I won't say rivalry, but there's a lot of chirping going on and a lot of kind of quotes taken from these players during these games, mainly Dillon Brooks, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. But Draymond Green, we saw that he went on a podcast a couple of weeks ago talking about Dillon Brooks and talking about how he's kind of a pretender and how that, Golden State's got 4 championships and Memphis hasn't done anything. But Memphis, without Ja Morant, continues to buzz. Like they are waxing teams. They waxed Golden State on the weekend. Dillon Brooks hit about a mid-range shot and then got in Klay Thompson's face. Klay Thompson went on to kind of show that he's got 4 rings. But you know what? I think that Dillon Brooks is living rent-free in these guys' heads right now. Personally, I think that, if I were Draymond and Klay, I wouldn't feel any need to address this guy in the media. He hasn't really done much in the NBA, but it's been fun to watch. And the Memphis Grizzlies, they look good. Like they play a team ball, an all-around team game, and they're gritty on the defensive side of things. Jaren Jackson Jr. looked phenomenal against Golden State Warriors. I think he had 30+. Desmond Bane can get dripping from beyond the arc. Obviously, we know Dillon Brooks can be that dog on defense, and then you throw Ja Morant back in the mix. I mean, this team is actually, they're a team that could make some noise in that wide-open Western Conference, I will add. But we look at the Golden State Warriors. Okay, they're going to make the playoffs. They might be a play-in team at that 7 seed. But we look, and the Western Conference is separated. The 5 and 12 seeds right now, they're all separated by 3 games. So these last 10, 12 games in the NBA season are really going to dictate what this playoff picture looks like in the Western Conference, because right now it's just not even close to set in stone. But we look at the Golden State Warriors. They're 29-7 at home. Phenomenal record. They are 7-29 on the road. They have been just atrocious on the road. So obviously that they're 500 this year, but they can't play on the road this season. So is that, worrisome going into the playoffs? I would think 100%. Is this the year that they can kind of make some magic and go back to back? I highly doubt it. With a road record like 7-29, just don't think it's going to be the year for the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, it's been a ton of content coming out of that Golden State Memphis Grizzlies series, and I'm Team Dillon Brooks. Canadian guy, I'm not a huge Draymond Green fan. Klay Thompson, obviously, I enjoy, but I'm Team Dillon Brooks in this argument and in this trash talk, and I gotta side with my Canadian boy. Lonzo Ball having his 3rd knee surgery. Just a young guy too, and he's gone through a bit of a ringer in terms of remember his shooting when he was drafted by the Lakers. My arm is profusely bleeding right now. If you're watching on YouTube, we've got to get that looked at. There was a scab on the back of my arm, and apparently I rubbed it, and it's leaking right now. But Lonzo Ball, he and I've got a white shirt on, which isn't ideal, but Lonzo Ball, there's some questions surrounding Lonzo if he's ever even going to play again. A third knee surgery. And what is he, 26, 28 years old? His shooting was under question. And then, he ends up right now on the Bulls, and they could use a guy like Lonzo, but he's such a great facilitator. He's really a solid player, I think, that goes under the radar at times. And so, you hope the best for Lonzo. It sounds like he's going to miss the entirety of next year. So he missed the entire season this year. So that's 2 years gone from your career. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Lonzo, and you hope that he comes back and can play again. But what a shame that will be if he never plays again in the NBA. And you look, his brother's been banged up a lot this year for the Charlotte Hornets. But speaking of the Charlotte Hornets, Michael Jordan's looking to sell his majority stake in the Charlotte Hornets. But what a time to sell, because these guys are going to be in the lottery for Victor Wembanyama. You've got a lot of nice pieces there in Charlotte with Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier and LaMelo Ball and Kelly Oubre Jr. And you throw Victor Wembanyama in that mix, then you're like, okay, this team's going to be a lot better than they were last year. So MJ, obviously, he's looking to get out of the ownership, his majority ownership stake of the Hornets, and probably looking to build another golf course. His golf course in Florida, what's it called? The Grove. Looks phenomenal. It's just it's impossible to play. It's very exclusive. But obviously on the bucket list for courses to play. But I guess, you got coolers on the carts, and there's like, I guess it's obnoxious. There's like 10 cart girls out there. It's really, really something to see out there in Florida, the Groves. If you haven't seen that, look that up. But like I said, 10 games left in the NBA. The Western Conference is just insane. 5-12 separated by 3 games. So the Western Conference will be what's going to be most compelling and most captivating to watch here in the next 10, 12 games. But the NBA has been fantastic. March Madness continues on. We'll continue to fire away in the Chalkboard app, which has been quiet, folks. If you're listening to this podcast and you're not chiming in on the Chalkboard every once in a while, it's a slap in the face. So get in there and start giving some hot takes, giving some bets, because I know you degenerates are throwing bets around, and this arm is got to be addressed. But folks, moving on into quarter 2, we got some NHL to talk. And I'm watching hockey Thursday night. I was mainly glued into the Senators and Avalanche game, which I'll talk about here in a moment. But the Panthers and Canadiens are playing, and it was 7-3 in the first period. Sergei Bobrovsky, a 3-time Vezina champion, Vezina winner, the best goaltender in the NHL. He's won it 3 times. He gave up the first 3 shots of the game. This guy goes 1 year where he's phenomenal, like I said, a Vezina caliber goaltender, and then he'll go the next year where he looks like he could be playing in the AHL. It's just such a bizarre situation with Sergei Bobrovsky. But he let in the first 3 shots of the game. The Panthers end up winning the game 9-4. But what a shit show of a game that was. 10 goals. If you had the under in that game, might be time to walk away from sports betting. But the Panthers were right back in the mix. They find themselves 1 point behind the Pittsburgh Penguins for the final playoff, for the final wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see what the Panthers can do. I mean, I've talked about it in the past that their analytics are really, really strong offensively. They just haven't converted their chances. Their expected goals are one of the best in the league. So for all the analytical heads, they're really bullish on the Florida Panthers. But you know what? It's going to be a race. That Islanders, Pittsburgh, and Florida race is going to be very interesting. Obviously, they're going to be in tough. They've got to play Carolina or Boston in the first round. But that Carolina team, without Svechnikov, you never really know if you can battle it out. And I hesitate to be extremely bullish on the Bruins. Obviously, I understand that the run they're on is just incredible. They're 27-3 at home this year. They're an incredible team. They've got the leadership. This leadership group's been to 3 finals. They've won 1. But you know what? It's the NHL playoffs. It's the hardest to get done, and it's going to be a ringer. So you know what? If Boston seems like the favorite, and I think they are. And a lot of people, actually, that was kind of a narrative when I was out and about in Halifax. A lot of people asking me about the Bruins, how I feel about them. And obviously you feel good about them, but you obviously got to hesitate. It's one game at a time. You can't lock in that they're going to be in the finals. You can't lock in that they're going to win the Stanley Cup because I mean, even though not too many years ago, we had the Tampa Bay Lightning have one of the most successful regular seasons, and they got swept by the 8th seed. There's only been one President's Cup trophy in the last 15 years to win the Stanley Cup. So if you're a Bruins fan, I would hesitate to look too far ahead. Take it one game at a time. We'll see the matchup. I mean, I don't think this first round matchup is going to be a walk in the park. We look at Florida and Pittsburgh. Those two teams, they can play hard. It's the playoffs. Anything can happen. So it's going to be interesting watching that wild card race at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Now I'll revert back to that Senators Avalanche game that I was watching. So with little seconds left on the clock, it's a 4-2 game. The Avalanche are leading the Senators 4-2, and the puck gets iced, and rookie goaltender Mads Sogard kind of covers it up, and Lars Eller drives the net, and he's got the puck for, I would say, 5 seconds, and you're like, ref, are you going to blow the whistle? It doesn't blow the whistle. Lars Eller pokes it in. I thought it was... I haven't really looked into the ruling or, if that should have been blown down or what, but it was a chintzy goal. I don't agree with that. And the Senators ended up making a push to come back. They ended up losing the game 5-4 and essentially ended their season. I mean, the Senators have been on a great run. We all know they have. Those 2 back-to-back wins against the Detroit Red Wings a few weeks back really put them back in the mix. But they've had a really tough stretch right now. And I mean, they've been going through the gauntlet. I mean, we look at the teams that they've been playing in Edmonton and Colorado and Toronto. They've got Boston coming up. I mean, just the cream of the crop on the schedule right now for the Ottawa Senators. So what it will do is, it is nice to play these types of teams at this time of year. They brought Toronto to a shootout on Saturday night on Hockey Night in Canada, but it's nice to play these types of teams this time of year. You're getting their best games of hockey as we get closer to the playoffs. And Ottawa, they brought in Jacob Chychrun. They've got a lot of great young pieces, and we know that they're going to be making strides towards the playoffs next year. But I think that I've talked about it. This team is exactly where we pegged them to be. You looked at the preseason outlook of the playoffs. I mean, they weren't going to be better than the Leafs. They weren't going to be better than the Bruins. They weren't going to be better than Tampa Bay. So now you're automatically looking at the wild card. And with how deep the Metropolitan Division is at the top 5-6 teams over there, this is exactly where you peg the Senators to be. And I think this is a year that you've made strides. You're playing meaningful hockey games. And DJ Smith, head coach of the Ottawa Senators, was talking about how banged up Shabbat is right now. And you lose your 2 starting goaltenders, your tandem with Forsberg and Talbot. So I think it's a win right now for the Ottawa Senators. And I think that they'll come back healthy next year, make a few more tweaks. A guy like Alex DeBrincat, what do you do with him? But I think that this team's going to be in good shape. So the Avs, I did want to mention too before we move on, with that chintzy goal in Ottawa, they're on an absolute warpath right now. They sit 3 points out of the first place spot in the Central Division, which I think they're going to get. So the Avs, I mean, this is a team that's going to be on a heater, and that's not a team that you want to take on come playoff time. Obviously, they're reigning Stanley Cup champions. They are well equipped to do that again, and I think that they'll have to be the favorites in the Western Conference, especially too if they get that 1 seed. The Western Conference will be going through Colorado, so they've been fun to watch as of late, and they're getting healthy. So. What's going to be interesting surrounding the Colorado Avalanche is Gabriel Landeskog, who has missed the majority of the year. Is he going to come back come playoff time? We'll see. But if they get him back as well, I mean, look out. What a great decor they have in Colorado with Devon Taves and obviously Cale Makar, the best defenseman in the NHL. And Bowen Byram's been fantastic. Samuel Girard, they've brought back Jack Johnson. They've got a great decor there in Colorado. So, but moving on, and just this is a topic that we talked about, I think, a few episodes ago. Goaltender for the San Jose Sharks, James Reimer, he decided to sit out during the Pride Night that was held in San Jose. Their goaltender decided not to partake. He said it went against his religion, his Christianity, and the Sharks stood by that decision, and they released a few statements. And it's a shame, it's a shame that I don't want to call it a celebration, but it's a hockey's for everyone, and that's kind of the motive behind it, I think, is to show that, if you do belong to the LGBTQIA+ community, that you are able to feel welcome at NHL games and be a fan. And I do like the ideology behind putting on these types of nights. And my kind of where I question is that we might have to have more nights, just in terms of, the different communities that may not feel welcome, in the sport. And, I hopefully that, we don't have to just target, a few of them. Let's try to really engage a lot of them and have maybe 10 home games where we celebrate different types of communities that, may not have the everyday access or may not feel comfortable in the NHL, may not be represented in the National Hockey League. But it's interesting, it's a sad situation that all the attention goes to James Reimer, but again, it's his decision, and it's tough to force something upon someone who really lives a lifestyle that it goes against. And I think it's unfortunate. Clearly, I've been vocal in the past that I think that he should go on and support the jersey, but obviously, wearing the rainbow colors goes against his Christianity in some way, and he decided not to go. So I'm sure you heard about that story. And, teams like the Rangers and Minnesota Wild have canceled their nights, I think due to the fact that they've got some serious Russian superstars in their teams, and that, being a homosexual in Russia is not legal. And so if you were seen wearing this type of propaganda supporting them, it could be dangerous for the families of those players. So it's a lot it's challenging to comment on. It's challenging to really, give a take, but it's unfortunate. But James Reimer sat out Pride Night in San Jose. Just finally in the NHL, interesting story here. So on December 23rd, John Carlson, star defenseman for the Washington Capitals, he took a 90-mile-an-hour shot to the side of the head. He nearly lost his ear. It lacerated an artery, I do believe, or it lacerated not an artery, but anyway, there was blood pouring out of his, I'm not great with anatomy, but it lacerated something in his head, and he's been recovering. He said it felt like the one thing he could compare it to is being struck by lightning. I can't even imagine the pain that he experienced, but he's making a return here soon. So if you haven't read into that story, go check out the story of John Carlson getting hit by Brendan Dillon, former teammate of his, 90-mile-per-hour shot in the side of the head. It's a scary moment. Nearly lost his ear. It was dangling from his head. Unbelievable. So we're thankful that John Carlson's made a recovery there, and he'll be back in the Washington Capitals lineup here shortly. But a lot going on in the NHL. Obviously, we've got about 10 games left. I cannot wait for the NHL playoffs. They are going to be beyond electric. There's going to be a lot of content pouring out, so we'll continue to monitor what goes on in the NHL. But ladies and gentlemen, we're moving on to quarter three, and we've got a little bit to talk about here. We'll get the World Baseball Classic, which actually has garnered a lot more of my attention than I thought it was going to be, mainly because in the quarterfinals, the United States had an electric moment. And we've got a little bit of NFL signings to talk about. In the MLB, we're about 10 days out from opening day, so that's going to be awesome. But let's talk about the World Baseball Classic. So we've got the first semifinals were played yesterday, but we'll talk about the quarterfinals. So the quarterfinals, the United States was taking on Venezuela. They were down by 2 runs in the 8th inning when Trey Turner hit a grand slam. Unbelievable. To essentially win the game. They went ahead but listen to this United States lineup. It is absolutely so stacked. It's almost comical. Okay, so listen here. So the United States lineup, leading off Mookie Betts. In the 2-hole, you've got Mike Trout. The 3-hole, Paul Goldschmidt. Batting cleanup, Nolan Arenado. Then you've got Kyle Tucker playing left field, batting 5th. Then you've got Tim Anderson, Kyle Schwarber. It's absolutely outrageous. Trey Turner. You got Pete Alonso. Cedric Mullins. I mean, their team is. You got Lance Lynn, who started the game. I mean, it is beyond stacked, and they ended up beating Cuba 14-2 in the semifinals. So now we've got Mexico and Japan will play in the next semifinals tonight or yesterday night for you listeners, and the final will go, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's been fun. You really do get a bit of playoff baseball feel, which obviously we know is the best baseball to watch, and it is kind of refreshing. It didn't have my attention early on. I was kind of a little bit disoriented in how the divisions were set up and how they were playing all over the globe. But now I'm enjoying it. So I've been loving watching this United States team. They are absolutely juiced. So like I said, the finals will be in a couple days. We've got a good semifinals matchup tonight, which we'll tune into. The MLB about 10 days away from opening day. On Friday, I'm going to preview some divisions. We'll go through what teams are looking good, which teams are poised to have big seasons, and we'll go from there. Continuing on in quarter three, just moving into the NFL, some more signings that are worth noting. Laremy Tunsil, we all remember Laremy Tunsil, who was smoking the gas mask. He was going to be the renowned first overall pick. I think this was in 2016, but he just signed a 3-year, $75 million deal staying in Houston. So what a monster. I mean, that tells you enough, even if you don't watch him, how impressive he is on the offensive line, how much of a beast he is. So that's a fantastic signing for the Houston Texans. The Dallas Cowboys trade for Brandon Cooks, which, a lot of people might enjoy. For me, it's like, dude, this guy's like a 12-year vet in the league. He's dealt with concussion issues. I don't love the signing, but he's more of a name brand than he is, I think, as a quality player in out of his age. And so Brandon Cooks heading to Dallas. Adam Thielen signs with the Carolina Panthers. So whoever they pick at the first overall pick, whether it's CJ Stroud or it sounds like it's going to be CJ Stroud. So he'll have Adam Thielen working out of the slot. So that's a nice pickup for them. The Lions signed Eagles safety CJ Gardner-Johnson, who we all know is a beast, to a 1-year, $8 million deal. We'll get the draft about a month away. So honestly, it's going to be a fantastic content. The content's going to be pouring out in the NFL as we continue on in the offseason. Sorry, I'm dealing with kind of a belch right now. I apologize about that. And then the MLB, 10 days away. 10 days away. That was a struggle fest. And the World Baseball Classic still alive and well. So obviously fantastic content coming out of the MLB and World Baseball Classic, and we'll continue to follow along there. All right, folks. We're on the home stretch here, and we're going to talk about the PGA Tour, the UFC, and Formula 1 in quarter four. And the PGA Tour was fun. I get to watch the majority of it on Saturday and Sunday, and the Valspar Championship. It's a tough course there at Innisbrook in Florida, just outside of Tampa Bay. But Sunday, we kind of really had three groups that were mainly three groups in the mix. We had Taylor Moore in the third last group. We had Tommy Fleetwood in the second last group, and we had Jordan Spieth and Adam Schenk in the final pairing. And Adam Schenk was buzzing along. He led for the majority of the tournament. He was just rolling in putts. He's got, so I guess I'll shape this up. Taylor Moore gets in the house at -10. So Taylor Moore sitting in the clubhouse at -10. At that time, Jordan Spieth and Adam Schenk were both at -10 as well. Tommy Fleetwood on the par 5 14th, he went for it. He kind of plugged in a terrible position in the bunker and ended up making a bogey to put him to -8 and took him out of the tournament. You felt bad for Tommy Fleetwood because obviously a British player on the PGA Tour. It was Mother's Day in the UK, and Tommy Fleetwood had lost his mother about a year ago, and you're feeling he's a guy who's been on tour for a long time. He's been a top 20 player in the world at times, and he's won 6 times in the European Tour, and still hasn't been able to get it done on the PGA Tour. So he's a guy actually I'll be looking at the match play this week. I know I've got to make some changes to the Run Your Pool. I've got to make sure that we can pick the match play. I'm sure I can make those changes. So, and then you got Jordan Spieth. He steps on the 16th hole. He's moving and grooving. He's feeling good, and he banana slices his 3-wood into the water, pretty much takes him out of the tournament, makes bogey, and ends up making bogey in the 18th to go to -8. But Adam Schenk's the guy who, his wife flew in, she's pregnant, so he's playing in the final group with Jordan Spieth. He's buzzing right along. He's -10. He's rolling in 40-foot par putts, birdie putts that are nearly off the green, 80 feet. So anyway, so Adam Schenk gets the 18th hole, and I was surprised. So he sits at -10, and he knows Taylor Moore's in the clubhouse at -10. He steps up on the 18th hole, and he must have taken 3 seconds, and he drives a snap hook, and it lands directly beside a tree. Complete jail. He flips his club over, plays lefty, hits it to about 40 feet, can't make the putt. finishes second place. So it's a tough one for Adam Shank. But Taylor Moore, like I said, or if you did the math there as I was talking, ends up winning as he got into the house safely at -10. Taylor Moore, second year on tour, big win for him. Obviously, we all know that winning on the PGA Tour, all the exemptions, I think you get a 5-year exemption on the tour. It's massive to get a win. I think he won $1.8 million. It wasn't an elevated event, but huge win for Taylor Moore. Congratulations. It was kind of underwhelming in terms of the quality of viewership, just to the fact that we're watching these three guys in the last two groups of Tommy Fleetwood, Jordan Spieth, and Adam Shank just kind of pooped themselves coming in. So fun to watch. So the Valspar Championship for a tournament that's not elevated, I thought it was great viewing. And we move on. We continue trucking towards Augusta National. And we've got the match play this weekend held at Austin Country Club. So it's kind of a March Madness type bracket. So there'll be groups of 4 players. There'll be a round robin on Wednesday and Thursday where you play everyone in your group, and then whoever has the best record out of your group will move on. And it kind of goes from there. And it's a bracket setup. It's really fun. And we'll see. I mean, it's $3.6 million to the winner. Scotty Scheffler won last year. The year prior to that was, I forget. The year prior to that was it was Scotty Scheffler. Prior to that, it was Billy Horschel. Prior to that was COVID. It didn't happen. I think it was Dustin Johnson the year before that. So, but there's some guys that really like this match play format, play a lot better in the match play. You can kind of go look at some President's Cups and some Ryder Cups to see guys who do well. So that's going to be fun to watch this weekend. It's kind of a unique setup for the PGA Tour. The match play is fun to watch. And I'm going to make sure that in the Run Your Pool, the one and done, that we can tackle the tournament and have that tournament be where we're picking in the one and done this week. UFC Saturday night. I'm going to be completely honest. Please don't clip this and make this public. But I was watching the UFC fights on TikTok. Some guy was streaming it. It was unreal. So I it was kind of an earlier fight because it was in England, and I was watching the Senators and Leafs and had that on my TV and was watching the fights on my phone. It was a great setup. But Justin Gaethje in the co-main event fought Rafael Fiziev, and what a banger this was. I mean, this Fiziev guy's got some quick hands. I thought, if Gaethje's obviously he's got one of the best chins in the UFC, but he ends up beating and carving up Rafael Fiziev in a 3-round bout in the co-main event. And Justin Gaethje, he's won 11 Fight of the Night titles, so that's amazing for Justin Gaethje. So that's a $50,000 bonus if you win the Fight of the Night. So Justin Gaethje, he's going to have one more run at it. So he'll fight up. Whether it's Oliveira or I forget who's got the belt right now. Oh, it's Islam, I think, in that division. So we'll see what happens there with Justin Gaethje, who he decides to fight next. But Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman were fighting for the 3rd time for the welterweight belt. Obviously, we know Leon Edwards in the fight prior knocked him out with a kick to the head, and Leon Edwards retains the belt. It was not the most captivating fight. I'll be the first one to say it was just a bit of a snoozer. Both these guys kind of feeling each other out. Usman was trying to take down Leon at times, and Leon just he landed the most significant shots through the 5 rounds. So nothing really, extremely exciting. But Leon Edwards retains the belt, and it sounds like he's going to fight Colby Covington next. Islam, I know, called him out. Islam looking to get the double belt, but Islam might be in the mix at that 170 weight to see if he can take down Leon Edwards. But it sounds like Colby Covington and Leon Edwards, I think October. So that could be a banger. But UFC 287. So on Masters weekend, we've got the Masters, and then Saturday night, Izzy Adesanya will take on Pereira for their second for the belt in their rematch. We've got Jorge Masvidal will fight Gilbert Burns. We've got Raul Rosas Jr., the young 18-year-old, fighting in his second UFC fight. So that card's going to be absolutely amazing. The UFC continues to pour out great content. And if you're interested, if you don't have anything going on Saturday night, it'll be a free fight on ESPN and TSN. We've got Corey Sandhagen in a fight night, who's a bantamweight fighter. I really enjoy him. I think he's going to have a title shot soon. So Corey Sandhagen will fight on Saturday night. And just finally in the Formula One, Red Bull continues its tear. They come 1-2 on the podium. Sergio Perez wins and Max comes second. Charles Leclerc called out Ferrari saying he doesn't like the car. Hamilton calls out Mercedes doesn't like the car. But if we continue on this trend, it looks like the Red Bull car is just going to be dominating this season. Obviously winning the first 2 events. And they're off to Australia in 2 weeks for the Australian Grand Prix, and we'll continue to monitor the Formula One. Obviously, Charles Leclerc, who I had bet, came 7th, so a huge whiff by that guy. But ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate it. Listen, absolutely, go follow on all the socials. Make sure you're liking and sharing the post. A like and a share goes a really long way on the post. If you're ever watching, a post of mine on Instagram or TikTok, a like goes a long way. If you have time to double tap it, that's awesome for me. A share as well, share to a buddy, and that goes a long way for me. So everybody have a fantastic week. We'll be back on Friday, and listen, enjoy your weeks.